Hi everybody. So today we are going to start practicing how to draw some shapes. So you should have either on your Chromebook or in person, there should be two different worksheets. One is a little bit harder, so I would say this one's a little bit on the easier side of the four shapes. So these I would say are easy, medium, and probably the toughest because there's some tricky kind of different polygons in there. So what you're going to do is you are going to choose one of them. And for this one, just for the sake of time, I'm going to do the easier of the four. You're going to need your sketchbook. Make sure you please turn it sideways. That way it's matching the same shape as the reference. And you are also going to need a normal pencil. So the reason that we are doing this is we are going to practice learning how to make sure that things are in scale and in proportion of one another. So when we do begin to sketch, you want to make sure, again, just like with our value scale, we're going to hold our pencil towards the end. The reason that we're doing this is we are going to be much less likely to, oh, my camera's getting out of focus. There we go, sorry. We're more likely to draw lightly if we're holding it towards the end of the pencil versus the point of the pencil. If I hold it towards the point, I am much more likely going to draw really hard, leaving dark marks, and if I make a mistake, it's going to stain the paper and it's much harder to erase. So again, hold your pencil towards the end, and we're going to start with shapes. So I like to start with shapes that are either towards the edge or even towards the middle. So if I were to start with this one, I probably would start with either the cylinder or the sphere. Probably with this one, just because it's a little bit easier, I would start with this kind of cone shape. So for the sake of the project, I'm going to do this one up here. So I'm going to start with this cylinder. So this background space represents this width of my paper. So my drawing is going to be much larger than the reference right here. So I'm going to start off drawing my cylinder, and I'm going to curve it. Now this isn't always the end-all be-all. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to make adjustments. You're not always going to get it perfect the first time. So you need to be open to the fact that, you know, things might be off. You might have to make adjustments. Just because you're done with one shape doesn't mean you're not going to have to come back and, you know, fix some things. Okay, so I've got my cylinder, and so I'm going to use my cylinder to kind of gauge where this background line should be coming. So it's about, I want to say about a quarter of the way up. So about a quarter of the way up, I'm going to have that background line where that table's kind of meeting that wall. Again, drawing really lightly, and I'm going to pay attention to where things land. So I have the shadow coming from a little bit from the front, kind of, and then also kind of from the back here. Now it kind of creates this unique little shape back there, so I kind of want to pay attention to that. I feel like it's kind of angled slightly. It's kind of like that, maybe. See, again, if you make mistakes, we can kind of fix it up. That might be not quite right, but we'll leave it that way for now. All right, from there, I am going to judge how tall. So it comes about a quarter of the way down, and then it comes on over. About a quarter of the way, and then it also starts about a quarter of the way at the bottom, and then I start to get this rectangular brick right here. So let's see, the brick starts about a quarter of the way up there, and it comes about halfway up my cylinder, so it probably should be like right there. And it's at an angle, so I'm going to have it kind of come, it kind of comes like a point, like if we were looking like at the outside of a book, kind of like a card, if you're turning a card out inside out, the point is facing towards us. So I want that to come on down, but you can just barely see the top, so I'm probably going to have to do some adjusting on this. And again, we're constantly going back, and we're going to revise. I feel like this is a little bit extreme. I feel like I need to flatten this out more. And the shadow should extend over and just kind of touch the edge. Right down here, it might have to come down a little bit more. So like I said, we're constantly going back, and we're going to be revising this. I'm going to start to put in my sphere. Draw really lightly. Kind of, I almost lock my wrist in place, and I just draw with my arm and not my wrist. draw that sphere in. Take some practice getting circles. Kind of go like that. And then I'll come back and kind of refine it. Okay. Okay. And this should just barely touch the top of that. And then it's going to peek out. There's just this little tiny corner right here that peeks out. All right, and then we have this other block on top. Again, I might have to readjust this because I'm worried that I actually see too much of up here. My drawing isn't accurate. So the edge of that block kind of comes here. It almost touches the corner. So you're always constantly looking where things, line up. So this looks like this has to be wider than over here. So this needs to kind of come over here. And I might have to move my sphere over a little bit, and that's okay. I tend to redraw and then erase. That way I don't end up putting it in the same spot. Okay. And again, see, now I'm able to erase. If I drew really hard, that probably would have stained the paper and I wouldn't be able to get rid of it. All right, so there's my sphere. So let's see how this is going. And it comes kind of out. It's going just past the edge of this, so it's kind of hanging over the lip of this block right here. So it kind of comes to a point. This side is a little bit smaller than this side. So something kind of, oh, I gotta extend that out now. Like that, okay? And so again, make sure you, with the cylinders, you're curving the bottoms. They shouldn't be, they should not be flat. That's going to flatten your drawing. Okay, so I still think I need to work on this a little bit more. But when you do think that your image is ready to go, so I'm just going to flatten that out a little bit. Okay, you can barely see the tippy top. Then you guys are going to start shading. And just like we did with our value scale, make sure that you start light and work your way to the dark. You should have a wide variety of highlights and shadows. So this is going to be the brightest part of my drawing. I'm going to make that, maybe I might leave this part white and then have this part a lighter shade of gray, but the majority of this is some kind of gray. There's not a whole lot of white going on. So I expect that, the table is shaded and there should be different shadows. The darkest parts are going to be the background and the cast shadow over here. So make sure that you're using both your 2B pencil and your ebony pencil, at least. If you want to use other pencils, if you have those at your disposal, great, but for the most part, you need to be using these 2 pencils. All right, get to it. Make sure that you double check with either me or the person that is in charge, if I do have a sub, to make sure that things look pretty good, to make sure that things, line up and seem, pretty good. All right. Have a great day, guys.